So Chops 3 quartet work.
Yes.
Is I've always wanted a quartet book for like I've had a I can't even keep track of how many different variations of quartets I've been in, and every single time there's so much reinvention involved. And it's like, well, what chorales are we using this time, or what are we doing for group scales? How are we going to like what is it similar to Chops One as like here are all of these different possibilities that you can focus on, or what's it going to look like?
Comparatively, yes, it's more like Chops One, but there's a bit more text and explanation because the way I think the first time a lot of people encounter quartet is in maybe sometimes in middle school or early high school. Maybe their band section, they throw together a quartet,
Yeah.
and great. That more power to them. And the very first thing they do is they play chorales. They play Bach, and they have no idea, what a chord tone is. They have no
Yeah,
idea,
they're just
you
playing the
know,
notes.
they're doing it, and then they're having people point out this, but they don't even know how to play their instrument in tune. So because this is the first time they've been thrown on tenor or bari or sop,
Hmm.
and so this one has a bit more explanation. First, how to work together as a quartet, so just how to communicate, you know. But even the most basic things like here's how to set up, here just plainly this is because it's also geared for the band director who might not be a saxophonist who had never done quartet who wants to have
Ah,
a sax quartet.
awesome,
So this could be a
awesome.
resource for them, and so this is what saxophone should tune to, as an example, and this is how to sit, and then the first set of exercises it's written kind of all encompassing. It takes you right through everything in a basic way. So here's how you take your tuning note. Here's the order of it. Okay, great. Now here's a way of going from there and working on in parallel motion, and just taking that sort of thing, working on some technique, working on articulation, and then okay, there you go. There's a quartet warm up for 15 minutes, and then the subsequent sections expand on each area of that, so that you work on intonation extensively. For just one chapter has a new complete set of exercises, and then blend is its own set of exercises, and I think of this as separately. Uniformity is another one,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is, where blend is a timbral thing, where it's really trying to make this, four different lengths of the same saxophone into one. Uniformity is top to bottom, beginnings and ends of notes. Do they match? Does your articulate what you think of as an accent versus a tenuto? Does that latch on to what the soprano is doing, and,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and everything like that? And so unison scales are good for that sort of thing, and but with different permutations. And so it's written with a bit more exposition, let's say, than either of those is, because it's intended to be. If this is your first quartet experience, great. Here's how you need to function as a group. Here's how to schedule rehearsals. Here is how to prepare individually on your own instrument so that you come to know that instrument really well
Yeah.
before you step in.
You mean you're not only supposed to play tenor when you show up to
Yeah, right.
quartet rehearsal?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Or just try
That's,
and play the
that's the
soprano the way
only
you've been
time you
playing
have your
tenor.
classical
Yeah,
tenor mouthpiece on your saxophone?
that's right. Yep. Have one, and only have one reed, or just yeah. Try
One.
try and
Wait,
play
wait.
try and play soprano the way you've been playing,
Oh,
tenor. And then,
yeah.
your first set of exercises is great. Expand upon that. And the thing is that I think with quartet, what we have already are good collections of shorter, easy pieces.
Hmm.
That a quartet should start out with. Teal has a couple collections. Rasher has a couple
Yeah.
collections. Dave Camwell came out with a really beautiful set of 24 Bach chorales, which is wonderful, and they're laid out beautifully. And so we have the small repertoire, the small bits of pieces. But in terms of thinking of sax quartet fundamentals, we actually haven't had a book like that,
Yeah.
and that's why when I was researching all of these books, I mean I won't go to it now because it's in disarray, but my stack of technical methods, occupies good 3 shelves here, and about 4 at home, and that's everything. All the wins. There's a gazillion technical methods. And truth be told, my book is just a little bit longer than what used to be the largest book, which is the DeVille method. That's 320 darn pages.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of stuff. But when I was researching the quartet book, I had a lot of exercises that my teachers have done with us in rehearsal, or band directors have done with us, and I thought, that would be a great quartet exercise. And we've thought of that stuff. Having been in Sinter Quartet now for for 10 years. Well, actually, this is year 11, I should say, because we formed in 2010. We've thought of a gazillion different ways that we never wrote down. You just do it, and you think, well, wait a minute. Then the method becomes luck of the draw. If you study with the right people, you get access to a certain set of exercises, but not these ones. Yeah. And so it's like, no, first of all, for a lot of us, at least in our undergrad and grad study, quartet playing sometimes is half of what we do. Or it's maybe the most performing that people do. Yeah. If you have a really active, quartet, or you're doing competitions or anything like that. And so the fact that it occupies about half your time some weeks, some years, and there's no method for it, I thought, well, no, let's get this down. And so essentially what you see there are the stuff that we work on. And I include some musical examples at the end, but because those have already been, there are already like collections of them, these are mainly designed to tease out what we talked about earlier in the book. So it actually starts with some plain chant, some Gregorian chant. You're in unison. I give you the text. Now I want you as a group to learn how to phrase that the way that a great choir does when they do Gregorian chant. Because when you're singing Benedicta eis, that suggests a certain slur group and articulation, because Benedicta has a different articulation between the B and the D syllable, and then eis would be a slur. So it starts with that. Go to some less harmonically complicated music than Bach chorales would be Renaissance choral music. So it goes to some Thomas Tallis, and a lot of times there's no third. It's open fifths, open fourths, and that sort of thing. Yeah. And so just learning to hear that way. So I take you through some Tallis and some Renaissance music, and then 2 examples from Bach to work on matching melodies. So 2 examples from Art of the Fugue. Because that other skill that you want to develop, which is not taught by chorales, because most often the top voice gets the melody, is that ensemble skill of, you played that melodic figure that way, now I'm going to match it.
Yeah.
Well, what's better to do that with than a fugue? Because you quite plainly have to lock them in.
Pretty obvious if you're playing different.
Exactly. Bingo. Yeah, exactly. And so those are the only musical examples at the end, because again, I didn't want to put out another set of Bach chorales when somebody's already done a great job of that. And so this one will be shorter. It's about 250 pages.
Yeah, so much shorter.
I know, it's a pamphlet. And the other thing is that it's all written in transposed score, because I want people to get used to reading from a score.
That was going to be
my
next
rather than
question,
give an individual SATB part, it means that everybody has to have the book, but it's also cheaper that I don't have to give you 4 parts plus a score.
Yeah.
And so
a lot of paper.
Right, and that's the whole point being, is that and every professor says this, is that you need to learn how to read a score. Yet very frequently what they get are the parts to the piece, and they may consult the score if there's a problem.
One person reads the score, and then
right.
Which
So with your fundamentals, if you start your rehearsal day looking at a transposed score and learning how to tune, and you get used to seeing, when the tenor has B and I have an F sharp, we actually have the same thing, in terms of pitch content. And that's not, and just doing that, week in and week out, you learn some pretty darn good transposition and also oral skills of, you can look ahead. I'm going to be the 5th here. Shoot, I'm going to be, I'm the 3rd coming up. And so by looking at a transposed score and figuring that out and working on this stuff, you naturally develop that skill to hear and listen ahead. And you think, that's coming up, so you pre-adjust. As opposed to just having your part and then hoping that it fits in until somebody stops you. It's like, nope, we're all looking at the same thing right there, you know.
Awesome.
So that's why it's written in score format.
What
Also, so a quartet coach could use it, or a band director could use it,
be able
and
to
have
reference
the full
everything
thing
at
with
once?
them,
Yeah,
and then, yeah.
that's helpful for sure.